Hey besties, do you ever catch your mind replaying a conversation on loop or jumping 5 steps into the future before you've ever even taken a sip of your coffee? Maybe there's that one awkward moment in your brain that you just won't let go of. If you ever feel stuck or in a mental rerun and trapped in that worry spiral, you're definitely not alone. Today, we are digging into something that so many of us wrestle with: rumination, worry, and that constant chatter of our inner voice. We'll talk about why our brains tend to replay those moments, predict disasters, and create loops that feel really convincing. And we'll explore what's happening in our brain and body during those spirals, why that inner narrator, though sometimes well-intentioned, can also keep us stuck. The good news: there are gentle, brain-healthy ways to interrupt these thought loops. These tools and practices help us soften the chatter instead of fighting it and speak to ourselves with a bit more compassion and spaciousness. Okay, y'all ready? Let's dive in. Okay, y'all. Welcome to our episode on mental chatter and all the spiral and rumination stuff that happens. Before we get to the good stuff and the meat, this is also good stuff, but let's do our check-in. That moment for us to pause, maybe take a deep breath in, longer exhale out, and on that 0 where we're calm and at peace, all the way up to 5 where we're in crisis mode, let's see where we are in this very moment. Where are y'all placing yourselves today?
I think I'm probably at a 1 or a 1.5, but that's probably because we have stuff coming up, right?
Always.
Things on the calendar.
We do.
Yeah, I think I'm right there.
I think I'm going for a 1.5 as well. Same thing. We've just got busy days and that's all there is to say about it, I guess. 1.5.
Okay. I think I'm landing at a solid 1-ish today. So right in that ballpark too. All right, y'all. So we are talking about this idea of rumination or spiraling thoughts. And that is when we get a thought stuck in our head and we're either replaying a conversation or an awkward moment or somebody's reaction, and we just kind of get stuck in that and it's going over and over and over. Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's an image, maybe it's what we said, just kind of rolling around in there. So what I'm curious about is if either of you have ever... if you could tell me about a time when you've had a moment where you're just replaying that conversation or you're thinking through that thing you said over and over again.
Yeah. So mine's a work example, and I did frequently get stuck on this one, actually. So probably last summer, the summer before, time really doesn't have a lot of meaning to me in this particular phase of my life. We had a meeting with somebody. And generally in our team, we show up in pairs or our full team since there's only 3 of us. But I had attended this meeting alone because of scheduling or whatever. And I said what I was supposed to say. And the person's reaction was really vastly different than what I thought it was going to be or what I had expected. And so and it was shocking to my nervous system, to say the least. And so every time I see this person or go into a meeting with this person, I will replay that conversation over and over and over in my head and think about the ways that I could have communicated better, or if she had just done this, or I had done this, or the other people had done this. And I will just get stuck on that and just spiral for hours.
Why do you think our brains do that? Why do we get stuck on those things? What happens?
I don't know. Maybe it's the idea of, being able to look at it again. For me, that's what it kind of feels like, as if we look at it again, then maybe we indeed do have something that we've practiced, I guess. So if there is another situation, maybe we don't have to feel all that angst, but maybe we'll have something that we've given ourselves time to be able to be this, right? So you feel like you have a little bit more control over it.
Control, I think, is, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I have a little bit of a control thing. And so when things don't happen the way that they're supposed to happen, or I think they're supposed to happen, I will stick on it and ruminate on that. But I also think some of it is safety. We've talked about our safety brain before, and negativity bias before. And I think it is our brains just trying to protect us from having a negative experience again, even if it's done in not a great way.
Yeah. Well, and I think about moments where I get stuck in that rumination or spiral. And I often don't realize it's happening until I'm like deep in it, right? In those situations for you all, what is happening like right before, or are you even able to pinpoint like what's happening right before or right at the beginning of that spiral? Because always, if we can be preventative, that is the ideal, right?
Yeah. I think I've said this many times on this podcast is that I'm a push through, right? So oftentimes for me, the rumination, the spiral doesn't happen until I'm out of the situation, right? So it could be that night, it could be months later, it could be I caught myself this morning thinking about something that happened 3 years ago that my brain decided was really important to think about this morning. So for me, it is often not even related to the situation anymore, but it could be related to something that is happening in my current reality or something that's upcoming. My brain is like, oh, so you're going to do this thing, but remember that one time you did something sort of similar and you said this weird thing and people looked at you like you didn't know what you were talking about. So think about that. So that maybe for this
patterns.
one.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, for me too. I think it's in that situation that's going to come up again. So like Shelby said, for me, it probably doesn't, I don't know, it could be months in between, or weeks in between. And then when it's time for the thing again, though, there's some reminders, I guess. We'll call it reminders. There's reminders about the things that maybe didn't go as well that first time.
Yeah. Well, and you both mentioned like the sense of safety or protection that our brains are trying to wrap us around in when this rumination stuff happens. And I don't know about for you, but oftentimes the things that I'm ruminating or getting stuck in those thought loops on are moments where things were uncertain or unfamiliar or maybe uncomfortable in some way. Or what's part of the story does your inner voice continue to circle back to when that rumination happens? Like if I'm thinking about for me, oftentimes I refocus on the things that I've said. Like I said this phrase in this way, and what if that person took the wrong way? Or it may even not be like the actual phrase itself. Like I said this weird thing, but their reaction. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, was that I can't believe she said that? Was that that's a really silly way to say that? Is that I'm completely offended and never want to talk to you again? Like I will replay somebody's reaction. Like what are the spots that your brains get caught on?
Yeah, similarly, other people's reactions or their perceived reactions. It's not always even that somebody did something. It was, oh, I said something and they kind of like tensed their shoulders a little bit. And maybe that is because I made them uncomfortable, right? So I stick on that a lot. And then I also stick on what could have been better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What would have made me look like I knew more than I looked like I knew in that minute, or what would have made me look like I was an expert in my field or whatever. Mm-hmm. My brain will get stuck on that and will give me like, here are 3 different ways that you could have been better and you weren't. And that's kind of that's where I get stuck, is that like could have been better.
That actually fires something for me because I typically link like rumination or this like spiral with anxiety or when I'm feeling nervous. However, I also do that when I'm angry.
Oh, yes.
When I've had a conversation, I'm like, oh, I should have said this in that way. Or
I really would have got them if I'd said this. Yes. Yeah.
So that was just kind of a light bulb moment for me because I'm oftentimes linking this just when I'm anxious, but it also happens for me a lot when I'm feeling frustrated or in a heated conversation.
Yeah. And I don't think those are the only 2 times that I experience it. If I'm offering comfort to somebody or I'm celebrating somebody or whatever, I will often think back to that conversation and realize, oh, if I'd said this or if I'd done this, it would have been better for them. Mm-hmm. And I get stuck on, again, that, oh, you could have been better, better thing.
Yes, similar to both of you, it's when we're trying to do our best, right? Yeah. Certainly we are all caretakers, but yeah, caring for somebody, gosh, you want to make sure that they do feel cared for. And if you think you've made a mistake in that, that feels horrible. And I think I'm a person that gives myself a lot of grace, but I still think through the things time and time again before I figure out what the solution it is. Just our brains that are continually, gosh, they're going all over the place.
Well, I think that's a really important point too, Nia, because this again, and we say this a lot in this podcast, but it's normal. Like the mental chatter completely normal. It is like it's your brain using the skill of language in your head to navigate a situation, to make sense of it, sometimes to think about the future and what you would do differently. We also know that these spirals or the rumination can kind of happen in two different ways. Sometimes I'm spiraling about what has happened, that argument I had with my spouse, which if I had just said this one thing this way, then he totally would have seen my side and realized he's totally to blame, right? And it was not my fault at all, which is never the case.
Okay.
But in my head, that's what I'm doing. Or the other one is the what ifs, where I tend to do the focusing on the past, but where do your brains tend to go? Do you spend more time in one place than the other?
I think I probably spend more time in the past, but by no means does that mean I don't think about the future too, especially in places where I think I've said this before, but, and you guys know this about me, but just for our bestie's sake, I really don't like feeling like I'm not good enough or like I don't belong in a situation. And so when I'm going into like a big meeting with people that I know I have the information, but maybe I am worried that I don't communicate it well enough, I will get stuck on those like, and I block out time on my calendar specifically for this, so that that I'm not like doing it during the meeting, but I will put time on my calendar half hour before the meeting or whatever to just think through like, what am I going to say? And if they say this, what am I going to say? And how am I going to respond? And how do I make sure that I get all of my information across and say all the things in a way that people will receive and will not cause harm and will also like protect myself and like all the different things. Yeah. So yes,
so
I
besties,
do that.
Shelby just dropped a bonus nuggie here on the podcast. We're not even talking about this, but this is another strategy for handling rumination is scheduling time to worry. As silly as that sounds, because what happens with rumination and spirals is we get caught up and then it just keeps going and going. It's hard to break that. But if we say, I have 30 minutes where I'm going to go through all the possible scenarios and the worst thing that can happen, at times that can trick our brain into saying like, okay, worry time's over. I scheduled it. It's done. Worst case scenario, this is how I'll handle it. And now we can move forward. So that is a whole bonus little
I didn't even
strategy.
know that. I didn't even know that.
Practicing brain health tips and you didn't even know.
I believe the youths call that a hack.
Yes.
They're hacking their brain.
Yes, I love it. What about you, Nia?
Yeah.
Is there a particular place that you tend to live?
I think it's probably the past as well. But by being able to, I think my brain is one that it's great because bringing those things back up also kind of comes to a solution. And then normally I'm able to kind of move past it at least right then. So yeah, thank you, brain, for being able to kind of give us a little bit of that chatter and when we can kind of tune into it a little bit and figure out what might be best for us.
So I love that, like, you're talking a little bit about what that chatter sounds like. And this is a completely self-indulgent question. So for me, when that happens, like the voice that I hear in my head is like not my own voice. It is like this screechy sort of like critic. It is something that's critical. There are plenty of times where my inner chatter is very supportive and it's like my best cheerleader and coach. But when that rumination happens, it's like this cynical, almost like spicy toned voice. Again, complete indulgence. Is it your voice or is it somebody else's voice or something different?
I don't know if I've ever thought about that.
That's why we're here, to ask the weird questions.
I think it's my voice, but it's not always my favorite version of my voice. You know what I mean? Like it's again, that self-critical, like really not happy with what's happening voice that comes up. I think it's still my voice.
Okay. Yeah, I too haven't thought about it, but it's a voice. I'm not sure if it's my voice or not, but mine is usually kind,
Okay.
So I would guess it's my voice because I am kind to myself, but it's just it's just a voice. Yeah. Just kind of it's the thoughts that are kind of circling through, but I never thought whose voice it was, but it's a kind voice.
So what I'm hearing is it's just me.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's way far from being true, I'm sure.
Besties, let us know if you are also a person that has a different voice in your head when the rumination happens. thinking, so we talked a little bit about what that voice sounds like, kind of where our brains go to. Are there particular situations that set you all up for maybe some of that more spirally thought or that rerun over and over? Like, are there particular types of scenarios that you're like, yeah, this one I'm more prone to get stuck versus, and I think this is important because when we can identify what those are, then we can better prepare our brains ahead of time. So do you know, is there a pattern for you all?
I think mine would probably be similar to what Shelby said before, but it's when I don't know how to do something, but again, my voice doesn't get critical. It just maybe reminds of the steps or reminds of, what it does. It reminds me of the times that I have gone through it before. So it's certainly in times that it's something new. It could be something fun and new, like a new hike or something like that. Or it could be something new in the office and something I have to figure out. Yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
I think that's important too, because the same mechanisms in our brains, like get stuck in the rumination and say things, it's the same mechanism that's working to help us remember something like, don't forget your keys, don't forget your keys, don't forget your keys, don't forget your keys. It's that same mechanism. So it isn't always a negative thing, right? Which sometimes when we think about like that rerun or that loop, we think about it negatively, but it is the same part of our brain that's helping us make sure that we have all the things that we need as we walk through the door.
Yep. I think same. Places where I'm not 100% comfortable, but also really manifests in when I'm going to be in situations with people that, how to say this delicately, I maybe don't enjoy spending time with. Okay. Because I think the people that I enjoy spending time with and for lack of a better word, I'm not as worried about saying the wrong thing or saying something that will upset somebody because I feel safer with those people. Mm-hmm. But in situations where there are people that maybe I've had not so great past experiences with, or people that have made me cry or whatever, yeah. The thing is, I get really, really anxious before those times, and that's when I can get stuck in that thought spiral.
Okay, so like when the anxiety spikes or doesn't feel like a particularly safe space. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. I would say similar. Mine is probably, like I said, with the direct link to if I've created harm or somebody's taken somebody else's reaction, it is like, oh, this is what light bulb moment, y'all. When I feel like I'm good at something and then I feel like I did not do that something well. And I'm like, oh, this is something I'm supposed to be really good at and I messed it up. And then I get kind of stuck in that spot. Yeah. I've gotten all kinds of light bulb moments in this episode today. I know. So I'm asking questions, but I'm learning more about me.
And we could talk about this for hours.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Nia, you already hinted at this a little bit, but we talked about like when that inner voice gets loud and maybe harsh and fast. But when is it, and you had mentioned that yours kind of is more supportive. Are there moments where your inner voice steps in and that chatter is like, okay, you don't have to go to the spiral, or like, I know that you're really focused on this and it's okay. Like, it's going to be all right. So are there moments where that happens for you all too?
Yeah, for me, it does. And for me, I think it does really all of the time. I think that in my life, I hope this is true, but in my life, I work to show who I am as a person, kindness, supporting others, empathy. So I hope that if there's a time that I did make a mistake, that I'm given that grace. It wasn't on purpose or intentional or vindictive. So for me, my brain is able to easily, maybe not easily, but it is. My brain is easily able to say, okay, yes, that was true, and X, Y, and Z. And it's just, for me, it is more of an automatic than not.
Yeah, I think I have to intentionally do it. I will catch myself in a thought spiral sometimes after hours or months or days, or it's not always automatic. But I'll catch myself in that spiral, and I will have to intentionally change the tone of my voice, my inner voice. And sometimes saying it out loud is actually super helpful with getting that out of my head. But it has to be intentional for me. I don't think my inner critic does that automatically. Needs to send it to a workshop or something.
Well, I think that inner voice, I probably notice it more when it's critical versus I'm sure there are plenty of times where my inner voice is very kind and understanding and gentle. But because of negativity bias, my brain is like, oh, yeah, that inner critic's a real jerk and kind of always beating me up versus like, oh, there's times where she shows up and she's super helpful too and encouraging and all of that. So that's another little nugget. All right. So in this, our follow-up Be Well Moment episode, we are going to do a practice, or you're going to be invited to practice a thing called mental time travel. And the idea is that you're jumping ahead 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years from the current experience with the idea of like a ruminating thought in your head. Has there ever been a time where you're able to look back at a moment of rumination with more perspective or understanding? Like have that I feel this when I feel most connected with myself, like I'm very in tune with me and I can see what's happening and almost like float above myself in a 5,000 foot view and be like, oh, Bailey, you're doing that thing. It's okay. Like that in 5 minutes, this isn't going to matter. Are there times where you're able to get that perspective?
Yes. And I think, again, it has to be, for me, it has to be intentional. I will look back on a moment and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe that was a little weird, but like nobody kicked you off the island, right? You were fine. Nobody showed up in your office and said you're fired because you said the weird thing. And that's probably not going to happen in future situations.
I've said plenty of weird things and that's not happened yet.
I have also said plenty of weird
We're all still here.
We're all still here, right? We're just people. We're just trying to do the things. So I think, again, it has to be very intentional for me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's, again, back to the automatic. I think it's the same thing that we talk about how sometimes when we're having those inner thoughts or we're feeling bad about ourselves or we're hearing somebody else say negative things about themselves, if we turn it around, Shelby's given the example before, if you turn it around and ask that person, would you say that to anybody else? Would you think that about anybody else? So for me, my brain automatically kicks that in. I want to spend my time in my life learning, growing, changing. And it's not often that I have that thought that gets so stuck that it takes me down kind of a spiral. So I think for me, again, it just kind of is the automatic, which I've been able to work with myself on over these years. And it just kind of kicks in.
Yeah. Well, I think that is beautiful and something that I would love to continue to learn and grow into. And I have to be very intentional. And there's plenty of times where it probably happens automatically for me that I'm just not even noticing those happening because it's automatic.
Which is why I'm excited to try this practice.
Yes. And what I'm excited with for you all is to get to try this out. I know it's a little bit different. It comes, again, from some of our best brain health research on the idea of mental distancing. So we're going to practice that in our next episode. Besties, we're so grateful that you joined us for this conversation. Reminder that your brain is completely normal when we get stuck in those thought spirals, those ruminations, and there are tools and tricks that we can do to help our brains when that happens. Catch the next episode, our next Be Well moment, to get a little practice and mental time travel as we navigate those ruminating thoughts. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Be well, besties.
Else that's